Welcome to SKML Chess Academy YouTube channel. As a New Year resolution, we have committed a study plan, and according to that, today our schedule is to learn an opening in the D4 line. In a one D4 opening, we have to learn, and we have to observe we have to study 5 games in the same opening. In this video, I can cover the D4 opening, what I'm going to study, but the games I could not share with you at the moment because those games have to I am studying and it will take too much length of the video. So, but as we are already in this SKML Chess Academy YouTube channel, we are doing the opening videos. Now we are finishing the almost finishing the gambits. Three more gambits are there, and afterwards we will see that e4 against French defense, Caro-Can defense, all other openings. Then afterwards we have to come to basics to the d4 openings. So I can utilize this opportunity that d4 opening for people who are playing the d4 can benefit from this video. Here we are discussing the lines. The games you can find from the chessbase or chessgames.com. These are all copyrighted material, so I cannot share immediately. So I request you to check these games on your own from the internet. You will get easily. So let us start our journey in the D4 opening and our journey to increase our elo rating to at least 100 points in this new year. By the end of the 2026, we will be whatever rating we have now, it will be increased at least 100 points. Let's start. In the D4 opening, let us see the basic idea in the deep pawn openings are, in a manner of speaking, a mirror of those in the e pawn section. In the e pawn, what we will play? You play e4, e5, then we try to play d4. Same way, here in here in this d pawn openings, first we play d4. The white plays d4, then in order to play e4. That is how this d4 openings are mirror of uh, those in the e pawn section, because the basic idea is same, to control the center. So we have seen e4 opening. After one e4, white's goal is to play d4. Similar way, after one d4, white's goal is to get his pawn to e4. Essentially, the idea is the same in both, to set up pawns at e4 and d4. Here, in the both the openings, we will try to set up the pawns on e4 and d4. Again, on the one hand, there are the older and regular lines from one d4, d5 with analogues to the strong point and counter-attack defenses. As we have seen in the e4 counter-attack defense and strong point defense, the same thing applies to d4, d5 also. On the other hand, hyper-modern theories, which are more involved. On the whole, one great defensive question in the e-pawn openings was the proper development of e4 pawn is proper development of this f8 bishop, where to keep the f4 bishop. I'm not talking about c8 bishop in French and other lines, but I am talking about e4, e5, where are you keeping? So we are keeping this in bishop c4 and all. So that was the problem. In d4 opening, the problem is with this queen bishop. The other similarities will be pointed out. After d4, the advance of e pawn may be prevented by pawn. You see, here white played d4. Okay, then he is going to play next e4. How can the e4 can be prevented? Just by d5, f5 and knight f6. So basically in d4 opening of white, black has three replies: d4, d5, d5, f5, and knight f6. Now in this video, we are going to see Dutch defense, one f5. So how it is? So here we are seeing Dutch defense, one d4. We played d4. So basically f5. You see, this is the which is popular when the this same Dutch defense played against me in the Delhi chess festival. Uh, the opponent clearly see that he wanted to test me, so he played a Leningrad Dutch. So later we will go and see that, because in Dutch defense, if you are hesitating, because he is a little higher rated player than me, so he crushed me in this opening. Actually, I want to play London, so I played d4. Immediately, he played this Dutch defense. So uh, let us see how to counter the Dutch defense. In d4, f5, its main aim is to stopping the e4. It already stopped the e4. So it's an interesting opening and with numerous different systems for black in function of his future plans regarding the center. By f5, black takes the key e4 square under control and already shows aggressive intentions on the king side. But the main problem, this also has a little problems because his king is exposed in this. So if white could take advantage of this, then white will get a very good game. Let us see. So what happens is black will allow the white, he may also come up with the d5. Okay. Nowadays, the Dutch system has clearly fewer adepts at the international level, super GM level, but in the normal club level, also you don't see much. But in tournament preparation, yes, it is a surprising weapon, and many of you will face this opening in the tournament play. So all d4 players should see these lines like d4, f5, d4, c5, d4, and we will first cover these side lines before we go to the main lines. So in this, he played d4, he played f5. Now what we play is, what is this control? He is taking control of the e4. So what should do? We control the center by knight c3. So in interesting move, covering the c pawn with the knight. Here actually, whoever plays d4, they immediately play c4, then they put the knight on c3. That is what you see in Queen's Gambit lines. But here, against that defense, we prefer to play knight c3 immediately. So what is our intention? We are going to play e4 and take out that pawn. Okay. If white succeeds to play e2-4, black pawn structure will be compromised. After the exchange of f5 into e4, black will remain with a backward pawn on the e5 and with serious weakness on light squares due to the missing of f7 f5 pawn. Therefore, black has to play knight f6 and d5 d7 d5 in order to stop white's threats. Let us follow the normal course of this variation. So here he played d5 because immediately stopping the white to play e4 e4. So here there is another line can be played here. Instead of d5, another way of controlling is knight f6. If knight f6, then bishop g5, then e6. Okay. If here d5 is played, it will change to the main line transposition. So here e4. Every move makes sense. Both sides fight for e4. As black will castle short, which is normal in this opening, f7, f5 already made a commitment, weakening the light squares around the king. So white exploits that by opening the d3 h7 diagonal. So here d3 h7 diagonal will be opened up. So f into e4, knight into e4, bishop e7, bishop into f6, bishop into f6, queen h5 check. So here how can he save it? Only by pushing it. Using the consequences, the absence of f7 pawn weakens the light squares, forcing g7 g6 will produce a new weak squares around the black king. g6, then he comes to queen h6. Here white has to make some to-do list and a possible setups. What is what are the plans for white? Put the white king on safety by long castle. So castle to the queen side. Here white ideas are castle on the queen side and develop the minor pieces as quickly as possible by knight g1 to f3. So bring the knight g1 to f3 and bishop f1 to d3, attack the weak pawns and attack the weak pawns h7 and g6 by h2 h4 h5 using the in the same time the pin along the sixth rank g6. Here what will play bishop into d4, castles queen side, bishop goes back to bishop f6, it goes to bishop f6, then play h4. White's advantage is assured by the lead in development and the qualitative value of the pieces. So that is how this is the if knight f6 is played. Then let us go back to 2d5. What happens when 2d5? Then play bishop g5. Anyway, play bishop g5. Here comes knight f6. Here if g6, if sometimes in we already said that Leningrad Dutch and all they play g6. If g6 and black tries to bring on f6 without the risk of getting double pawns, because what is the problem here is where knight f6, bishop into f6, then there are double pawns here. So when they push it g6 in order to avoid the double pawns here in f6, he inevitably creates actually other problems. After g6, white will open the h5. The moment you see this, you start pushing h4, bishop g7, e3, knight f6, h5. White is using the direct consequences of g7, g6. The consequences, I am using the word repeatedly. That means, what are the consequences is, suppose you move a piece from here or you make a pawn move. So here, suppose you make a pawn move here. So here, before that, it was controlling the d6 square. If you move the pawn to e6, then it will protect the pawn on d5 and f5, but it loses the control on the d6. That consequences means what are the new change in the position, new control of the squares in the when a piece or pawn is moved. So it loses some control and it gains some control. That is what the consequences means. So if you have this idea in your mind and apply in every pawn move or any piece move of by your opponent, you will get a clear idea what is his plans. So what are the weak squares you are going to get in the new position and all. So white is using the direct consequences of g7, g6 and try to activate the rook h1 as quickly as possible. Here knight into h5. Here there is a sack coming. Rook into h5. G into h5. Actually, knight is having 3 points. Rook is having 5 points. So here he sacked the rook for the knight to gain the access in the h5. Here king f8. We have said the so black king has forfeited his castling rights. Then knight f3, which is better after the exchange sacrifice. Here is use the exposite. What is white has to plan? How, he has to see how the exposite position of the black king. So for this, catch along. You catch along and activate R rook A1 on the H file. So use the rigid black pawn structure by bishop F1 D3 and F2 F3 G2 G4, which will open the file toward the black king. Trade bishop G7, which defends the dark squares but avoid other trades. Create piece superiority on the king side. Okay, this is the only different piece here. So you can exchange by placing the bishop h6. This is one of the lines. Whenever the black bishop is fianchetted, white uses this technique. Uh, they make a battery of bishop and queen, and they exchange it on h6. Now let us go back to main line. After knight f6, bishop into f6. Here f3 doesn't. F3 is also a dubious move, but he can try here. After knight f6, f3 can also be tried with the idea of e2 e4 followed by queen d2, and castling could be very good for white, but black has a very good reputation for this setup. So if you play f3 with the intention of playing e2 e4, sorry, e2 uh, e2 e4, then followed by queen d2, then castling, it it seems to be very good for the white, but black has a refutation for this line. He will play c5. So f3, the moment you play f3, he will play c. Try it from time to time. E into f6. Okay, bishop into f6, e into f6. Here, black got double pawns on the f5, which is a long-term disadvantage. With 8 pawns on the board, white knight tends to be superior to black's bishop. Okay, the absence of f7 pawn creates weakness on a2 g8 diagonal and h5 e8 diagonals. Here e3. White puts now his pawn on the opposite color of his remained bishop. Also, he clears the way for the queen to come on f3, then bishop d3. So, he will put his queen to f3, then bishop d3, then knight g1, e2, f4. One of the best setups in this position. White keeps both possibility to castle on the queen side or king side. Here, in this position, bishop e6 is the best move for the black. Other possibility is, after e3, black can play c6. But black will have some problem with the development of the b8 knight. This knight, because you are taking away the natural square of the knight, b8 knight. So here, bishop d3, bishop d3, bishop d6, and here, if here in 6, queen b6, you have a very good idea. You want to attack this b2 pawn, Then knight a4. So clearly white gets an advantage. So bishop d6, queen f3, queen f3, g6, knight ge2, bishop e6, h3. White has a better play because of his better pieces and better structure. Here, white should attack the black's king side structure by the g2, g4, and knight e2, f4, castle long, and then attack on the king side. So let us go back. The move to bishop e6. In the bishop e6, bishop d3 can be played. Then he has to develop the knight c6, and it is the queen f3. Usually in Dutch defense, black has a flexible dynamic pawn structure, but this position is characterized by a less flexible structure. So at least from psychological point of view, this variation favors white, who managed not let black to make his game. With 8 pawns on board and small chances to drastically open the position, the knights are better than the bishops. So the previous trade, a white bishop for the black knight is justified. So white's strategic goal for the middle game is to clarify the central position in his favor by pushing c2, c4. After passable maneuver by the knight c3 will come to knight g2, knight e2 and knight f4. After this, then play c2, c4. The point is that after d5 into c4, white will dominate the center squares and the open c5. Or after c4 into d5, he will make a weak black pawn on the d5. Black should maintain the central tension and eventually try to open the possible position by f5, f4. So he should play f5, f4 or c7, c5. By trying to keep a tense situation, black can make problematic any white attempts of playing on the one of the wings. White's to-do list is create and maintain permanent pressure against f5 and d5. Okay, f5 and d5, you have to keep on applying pressure. Then find outpost for the knight. So knight g1 should come e2, f4, and maybe knight c3, e2, g3. Try to make the possible the pawn thrust c2, c4 and g2, g4 in the future. e3, e4 can be very strong pawn thrust in the center, prepared by f2, f3. You have to make f2, f3, then you push this. You see, whenever you see that we recommend you play like this or play like this, make sure that you had a preparatory move. Just don't push that pawns like that. Pawns are to be pushed, yes, but with support. And at the same time, attack on the black king side, also you have to look after for your king. You have to see your king safe or not. Okay. So after 7 queen d7, a3 is forced in order to avoid knight c6 b4 because you want to eliminate this bishop. So these are all the small techniques which you have to use. So let us wrap it up. First we will see quickly go through our main line d4, f5, then we played knight c3, then we black played d5, then we play d5. After d5, bishop g5 was played and knight f6. Afterwards, bishop into f6, e into f6, then bishop e into f6, bishop e6, okay, e into f6, then e3 played, bishop e6, Then bishop d3 played, knight c6, queen f3. Here queen d7, a3. So these are the main line, and we have given you all of the variations. That's all in this video. We have seen what are the introduction to the d4 opening. So how it is different from e4, but nothing, not much difference, because in e4 opening we are playing e4 and d4. Here in the d4 opening, white wants to play d4 and e4. So how the e4 was stopped is basis of the black's main defense. You can play d5, you can play f4, you can play knight f6. Under the basis of that, if f4 is played, how to exploit the weakness of the e8 h4 diagonal we have seen. Thank you very much. If you please like, share, subscribe. Thank you very much. We will see in the next tomorrow with the next plan for our ELO system 100.